The True Crime Society podcast contains adult themes and violence and is not intended for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the True Crime Society podcast with Stephanie and Olivia. It's Thursday, September 8th here. It's in the future in Australia. Me and Peep, we're here chilling. She is ready to go. I love how many people are so supportive of Peep now. And I do have another cat. His name's Freshbutt, but he's a little more quiet. But ever since I got bullied, I've found so many cat supporters and I love it.
I know every week we seem to get more comments. Where's Peep? We want more Peep.
More Peep. She screamed in the last one too that came out today. So Peep, whenever you're ready to state your opinion, we're ready to hear it. She's not ready yet.
Got some very important things she's working on.
Yeah, she's thinking. That big brain. So we got a really nice review. I'm just kidding. We got a mean review that said that they don't want to hear about our lives, so we're just gonna go right into the episode. Just kidding. We have to talk about the weather, of course.
Yeah, weather's warming up here. It's been lovely. It's like light jacket weather now, not coat weather. Just FYI, everyone.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's lovely.
It's still kind of hot here most of the time. It's definitely getting less hot. It rained for like a solid 24 hours, which maybe got us out of the drought because it literally hasn't rained here for like months.
Hopefully that would be one good part of the rain and everything that comes with it.
Yeah, so all the trees here are like already dying though because of the drought. So it's like 90 degrees, but like looks like fall. So not great. Any new echidna sightings?
No, I haven't seen him again. I sent you a funny article the other day about an echidna. I should post it on the Instagram. But an echidna who went in and trashed a hotel room apparently and caused thousands and thousands of dollars of damage. But no, I haven't seen him again. Maybe he's moved on. Maybe we'll get a new one. Fingers crossed.
I guess don't let him inside.
I know. My dogs cause enough damage. I can't even imagine having a disrespectful echidna in there.
Yeah. So I'm excited because it's Thursday here. So usually I have work tomorrow, but I'm off tomorrow because we're going to one of our good friends' weddings in New York City, which I hate going to the city, but I'm really excited to go to the wedding because it's like at a nice place. And they were saying how the food's super good, and I friggin' love food so much.
Sounds like a perfect day.
Yeah, I'll post lots of pics or on my story or whatever. Any big weekend plans for you coming up?
I'm actually going just away for one night. I'm taking the kids. We're going to my cousin's 40th birthday. It's a belated. It's actually her 46th birthday, but she never had a 40th, so this is her make do 40th.
Oh, nice.
That'll be something nice, just a little bit different.
Yeah. And how could we forget the Queen just died?
I know. I can't believe it. I'm very sad. I was actually, before we started recording, I was just reading the news and I had to get out of it because it was making me too sad, too emotional.
It's so funny because I literally don't give a fuck about the royal family.
Neither do I really. It's just I really, really love the Queen.
I feel like I don't know anything about any of them really.
Yeah. You probably don't want to know about a lot of them, especially Prince Andrew.
Oh, yeah. I know about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Harry and Meghan and all that. Anyway. Even we were talking in our True Crime Society group chat thing about how now like all our money is going to have to change because the Queen is on basically I think all our money, all our notes and our coins. So now it'll be Prince Charles or King Charles III, I should say, King Charles on there.
When I saw they were like a statement from the king, I was like, who's the king?
They waste no time. I get it. I get there's a protocol and a system and they've had this in place and ready for probably 50 years. But like even I know that William and Kate's titles have now changed. So like as soon as the Queen was announced to have died, all of it changed on social media. They were ready to go.
Yeah. Big day.
Yeah, so very, very big. And kind of like obviously when I say unexpected, it shouldn't be because she was 96. But she seemed to be doing all right. But I guess, when you're 96, things can happen in an instant, really.
There was definitely a few times where we're like, oh, she's a goner. She's got COVID. She's got whatever. And then you'd see her back out waving in the courtyard or whatever a few days later.
And even I feel like she was seen in public like literally maybe yesterday or the day before. So whatever happened, it was obviously quick, which I guess is how you want it to be in the end. You don't want to be suffering for months or years or whatever. So
yeah.
Anyway, it's a very Yeah, sad time, end of an era.
Yeah, I don't have much to say on it besides.
If anyone wants to chat about the Queen, feel free to send me a message because I love talking about it.
For me, it's The Bachelor. For Olivia, it's the Queen. Big range.
It was so weird. Like, I know I just should stop talking about it because probably no one else wants to hear about it. But I am usually quite a heavy sleeper. I sleep through the night. I don't wake up. But for some reason, I woke up at 1:30 this morning and my mouth was so dry, which was like just before the Queen was announced to have passed away. And I went into the chat and everyone was talking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? This wasn't happening when I went to bed. So, yeah, very strange.
She must have called to you.
my soul sister.
For sure. Definitely. Are you going to the funeral? You're flying
I
in.
wish. Yeah, I wish that'd be nice. Maybe I'll get a special, spiritual invite.
You'll get like your own motorcade as her soul sister.
I actually have a friend who's on holiday over there at the moment, and one of my other friends wrote to her and she's like, please, can you just buy me some Queen merch? Can you buy me a tea towel?
Oh my God, the merch is always crazy whenever Lazzy sends it.
And they do the teacups and those commemorative plates that you display in like a cabinet and thing like that. No doubt they'll have all of that coming out it's been stored and ready to go.
Wow, it's so crazy. All right, well, before we get more bad reviews for chit-chatting, we'll get on with it. We are talking about a case that probably no one's heard about, Eliza Fletcher. Just kidding, because everyone's probably heard about it. It's been all over the news. We posted about it a ton. It was a very short but very big national news case. It was one of those ones that just kind of spread very quickly that everyone was very into.
It's a very new case. Like, it only started last Friday and it's now Thursday there. So it's been kind of a week since it all started happening. We obviously weren't planning to do an episode on this, but we've thought it was an important story to tell and to let everyone know what happened in Eliza's case.
Yeah, so not all the info is totally out yet. I'm assuming more will probably come out by the time this episode comes out. So we'll have to add in some clips at the end, maybe if it's like something totally crazy, one of us we can hop back on maybe. So just keep that in mind. We'll probably have to add in some more stuff. Like, we don't know her cause of death or anything like that yet, so all of that could come out, but we'll see. And then
it may also not. It may take them a while.
Yeah, it depends.
So, yeah. If anything of interest or important, we can definitely add it in before the episode airs.
And then at the end, we're going to talk about some updates. I guess you could call it updates, or just more information that was sent to us about one of the cases we talked about in the last episode, Alanya, Fruity, Lenore. If you listen to that one, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But her friend that she went to the apartment complex with before she vanished ended up speaking out about it, and she kind of wrote like a whole post about what happened and like her account of the night. So we'll go over that because it is actually pretty interesting. It answers a lot of questions that we had, so we'll talk about that at the end too. All right, so I guess we'll start with Eliza.
You don't want to hear that that's going on. We want to find her.
Friends and family of 34-year-old Eliza Fletcher are searching for answers. Police say someone in this black SUV abducted her while she was running near Zach Hurlin Street and Central Avenue around 4:30 Friday morning.
She teaches, and then she has two young boys that obviously we're worried about, and just a great lady, really. She's the best mom.
Hart Robinson is a friend of Fletcher's family. He said Fletcher regularly runs near the University of Memphis. The U of M asked MPD to assist in the case shortly after Fletcher was reported missing.
After we actually found information and saw a video where somebody was abducted, then that's going to raise the alarm.
Police say Fletcher's phone and water bottle were found in front of a house on Central Avenue that's owned by the university. Surveillance video in the area shows Fletcher running in the area wearing a pink sports top and blue shorts shortly before the incident. Robinson said they just want her to be found safe.
If you know anything or saw anything early this morning, we're just asking for you to come forward and help us.
Eliza Fletcher, she is a mother of two who was abducted in Memphis, Tennessee on Friday, September 2nd, 2022. And just for reference, today is the 8th, so like we're saying, it's very, very fresh. So this case came to an end 3 days after she was abducted, so that's why we decided to kind of slot this in. We weren't originally planning on doing this episode now, but a lot of people wanted to kind of hear the full story because, when something's so big and chaotic, you kind of lose like the whole story. So we'll get into all that. So Eliza, she was 34 years old when she was abducted. It seems like she was born in 1987, and her name was Eliza Welford. Her parents are Adele and Beasley Welford. So on March 8th, 2014, Eliza married Richard Fletcher III, and they were married at the Dixon Gallery and Garden, and their wedding was featured in Memphis magazine. We'll put all the info and photos from the article on the blog, but just to give you a little info about it, like an excerpt says, I'm told our bride Liza is a natural girl, outdoorsy, athletic, and warm, and the plans for her wedding emanated from her personality and style. Fortunately, her gracious and loving parents, Adele and Beasley Welford, were happy to be able to give their daughter the woodland-themed wedding she envisioned. Seemed like a big to-do. It says touches of salvaged barnwood, a cork bar, copper containers, some of which were in the personal collection of Bolin, gave a rustic yet sophisticated and creatively subtle touch to the decorations, petal tablecloths, pink tulips, tree trunk vases for a forest feel. They said it resembled Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, and then talks about all the really good food. So it seems like it was a very fancy ordeal. So if you want to read more about that, we'll put it on the blog because, I love seeing what other people's weddings are like.
Yeah, me too.
So Eliza's family came from money, and this is relevant because it was initially thought that maybe that's why she was abducted, could have been a ransom situation, things like that. So her grandfather, the late Joseph Joe Orgill III, he died in 2018, but he ran Orgill Inc., which is a hardware supply company that currently employs more than 5,500 people. Forbes listed the company as the 143rd largest private company in the country in 2021, raking in $3.2 billion in revenue that year. According to Historic Memphis, Orgill is the city's oldest running business, founded in 1847. So a lot of the headlines when she was abducted focused on this because it is very clickbaity for one. They were all like, billionaire heiress abducted, like, could it be for ransom? Just very clickbaity.
Sensationalist, yeah.
Yes, that's a good word for it. Very movie-esque, basically.
Yeah.
So her husband, Richie, he works as a dealership manager for a Memphis boat center, and he was previously a Coast Guard mechanic, according to his LinkedIn page. Eliza was teaching junior kindergarten at St. Mary's Episcopal School at the time she disappeared. She also has 2 young sons named James and Harry. Eliza was fairly active on social media, and she'd written in the past about her love of true crime and podcasts. One post said, long distance runners, what do you think is the best form of cross training? And she wrote, best podcast to listen to while running. I like Serial, Up and Vanished, and Dr. Death. I enjoyed the happy hour, and I'll have another. She had another post then from December 29, 2020 saying, hey friends, looking for a good true crime podcast, drop your favorites. So she was like one of our peeps. Here's a little clip of her talking to her students remotely via COVID that's come out, just so you can get a little idea of her personality.
Hey girls, it's Miss Fletcher. So before we go, I wanted to remind you of something that we do at St. Mary's that's so special and that I miss a lot. So I want to see if you can join in with me. We're going to sing This Little Light of Mine. Okay? Ready? This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Hide it under a bushel. No, I'm going to let it shine. Hide it under a bushel. No, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Shine all over St. Mary's School. I'm gonna let it shine. Shine all over St. Mary's School. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Miss you girls. Now you need to let the light shine at your house. And I will see you later. But wait, 1 second. I heard somebody that you might want to meet. Janie, come here, girl. Come here, Janie. Come here, Janie. And Janie is the girl in our house because there's 2 little boys and a Mr. Fletcher, and so there's just me and Jane. And I miss all of you girls so much.
So we'll start with the day that Eliza was abducted now. It seems like she was a regular early morning jogger. She was jogging early in the morning, maybe to beat the heat or just to like get ahead of the day. I wish I could work out in the morning, but whenever I try, I'm like, no.
Yeah, like back to bed.
It just seems like so much better to be able to get up and get it done though. So around 4 a.m. on September 2nd, Eliza began her regular jog, and around 4:20 a.m. is when the nightmare started. So her abduction was caught on CCTV, which hasn't been made public, but police made this statement about what happened. They said officers were advised that a female was jogging in the area at approximately 4:20 a.m. when an unknown individual approached her. The female was reportedly forced into an SUV and taken from the scene. The suspect was possibly in a dark color SUV traveling westbound on Central. So it's believed that the SUV had been driving slowly around the area where Eliza was jogging and had pulled up ahead of her as if it was kind of like waiting for her to catch up. So we've since learned that the vehicle stayed in that area for about 4 minutes after she was abducted. The affidavit in the case says that a man gets out, runs, quote, aggressively toward Fletcher and forces her into the passenger seat. During this struggle, there appeared to be a struggle.
I know, it's such a dumb sentence, but that's what it says.
I feel like it should be like during this altercation.
Yeah.
Or during the struggle, there appeared to be an altercation.
Or during this time, there appeared to be a struggle. Yeah.
But we're not here to nitpick. Around 2 hours after she was abducted at 6:45 a.m., a cyclist named Miles Fortis came across Eliza's discarded phone. He somehow knew it was hers, and was familiar with the family. Maybe it had her picture or family picture on it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It might have, on her lock screen or something, it might have had a family photo.
Yeah, so he ended up knowing them, and he took the phone back to the family. We don't know if they even knew she was missing at this point, but it would make sense because it was so early that they probably didn't really know what was going on yet.
It could have been anything, like maybe, for example, Eliza would go for a jog and then go straight to work, and the husband would get the kids ready for the day. So it doesn't seem like they knew that she was missing or were particularly concerned up until this point, publicly anyway.
Yeah. Miles also found a pair of Champion brand slides or sandals near the phone, and this will come back around later. So just remember that. When Miles returned the phone to Eliza's home, her husband Richie reported her missing at 7 a.m. on September 2nd. Or maybe he was even like, knew she wasn't there, but like we've said before, you don't automatically expect like she's been abducted. Maybe he thought she had to do a quick errand or something.
Maybe she would get a coffee sometimes. Like, there could be... a multitude of reasons why she was a little bit late, essentially.
Yeah. So police launched a search for Eliza very quickly, and the FBI became involved straight away. And they said it was due to the proximity of her disappearance close to state lines. The school where Eliza worked released a statement. Dear St. Mary's community, it's with a heavy heart that I share that our JK teacher, Eliza Fletcher, has been reported kidnapped early this morning near the University of Memphis. We join the Fletcher and Welford families in praying for Eliza's safety. Our first priority is caring for your girls and our faculty and staff. We are making every effort to continue our school day routine. At the same time, we are supporting our faculty and staff by bringing in additional support from across our campus. We have not told our younger students about Mrs. Fletcher. We are supporting the older students as they learn of this news. Our counselors and chaplains are available to support you and your daughters in navigating these conversations. Thank you for your continued support and prayers. So, police were seen searching Eliza's family home on Friday afternoon. They towed away her vehicle. One officer was seen leaving with a pair of like garden shears or like pruners.
Yeah, well, I've seen them online referred to as shears. They're like got the 2 kind of handles that you'd open and shut to cut like branches and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've always people say shears. I think like scissors, but
so I would call them garden shears. I don't know though.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's what you'd probably use to like prune some hedges.
Yeah, prune. Yeah.
So the seemingly thorough search of her home immediately started a bunch of rumors. People started casting suspicion on her husband. There were a lot of rumors at the time about what possible motive the husband could have had to stage Eliza's abduction. There was rumors about affairs, drugs, etc. Stuff that is irrelevant now, but that's what was going on at the time.
I feel like this is one of the cases where it really brought out the best but also the worst in the true crime community. There was a lot of rumors, a lot of slander, basically people just speculating things that ended up absolutely not being true. So,
I mean, as far as we know, they're not true anyways, but...
Well, yeah. In terms of the
could he be having an
crime,
affair? We don't know.
He could be, yeah. And we don't know about his personal life, but I think it means in terms of what actually ended up happening to Eliza, it didn't end up being true in terms of speculation.
Yeah, there's tons of slander online, tons that he was having an affair with like the nanny, and people were like doxing this random girl, basically. It was a big mess, and that's kind of... I know we've said it in a few episodes, like, even though it seems obvious, you can't just like jump to these conclusions, and you just need to be careful what you say. It's one thing to say like in private, like if me and Olivia are chatting privately, but you just like can't blast that shit all over the internet.
And even we had people sending us messages telling us very personal stuff about the family. Obviously, we didn't share it because I have no way to know if it's true, and it was irrelevant to the case anyway. But
yeah,
it just seemed like, yeah, everyone had their fingers in the pie for this one, essentially.
Yeah, especially if, which I think will end up being what happens, the husband had literally nothing to do with it. So he's already a victim enough already. We don't need like all the online slander and rumors about him.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of the shitty side of the true crime world. So on the day she disappeared, Eliza's family offered a $50,000 reward for information that led to the police to suspects. And along with that, they released like a little statement, just said, "We look forward to Eliza's safe return and hope that this award will help police capture those who committed this crime." So then on September 3rd, which is the day after she vanished, her family released more of a bigger statement, like a video statement. And
my name is Mike Keeney, and I am the uncle of Eliza Fletcher. On behalf of Eliza's family, her husband Richie, her children, her mom Adele, her father Beasley, her brother Gil, and all the members of her family, we want to make a brief statement. We want to start by thanking everyone for their prayers and outpouring of support. Eliza has touched the hearts of many people, and it shows. We want to thank the Memphis Police Department, Shelby County Sheriff Department, TBI, FBI, and all of the other law enforcement agencies who are working tirelessly to find Eliza. The family has met with police, and we have shared with them all the information we know. More than anything, we want to see Eliza returned home safely. The family has offered a reward for any information that leads to her safe return. We believe someone knows what happened and can help. If you have any information on this crime or Eliza's location, call the police at 901-545-COPS or call Crime Stoppers at 901-528-CASH. Thank you.
So around the same time the family released the video, Memphis police announced that they had found the suspect SUV and also detained the man who was driving it. Ian Ripple, who is one of the reporters who tweeted a lot about this case. He's like the Brian Enton of the case. He tweeted, "Eliza Fletcher's scene where the vehicle police were looking for had a wreck with another vehicle. Residents tell me it wrecked with an ATF vehicle. One person is detained and police are investigating around an apartment complex in southeast Memphis." So there's pictures of just the car. It's got its front bumper pushed in, like they rear-ended someone or something.
Yeah, a little bit pushed in.
So a woman who lives in the apartment complex near where the SUV was found posted photos showing crime scene tape around the grounds and a pond and wrote, "It's yellow tape everywhere. Now it's 2 tow trucks and an ambulance over here." Social media comments indicated that the apartment complex is called Lakes at Ridgeway, and it's about 15 to 20 minutes away from where she was abducted. Memphis PD did not release any info about the suspect for a while after they detained him, but at 4 a.m. on September 4th, which is like 2 days after she was abducted, police announced that a man named Cleotha Henderson had been charged with aggravated kidnapping. So they tweeted, the Memphis Police Department, they tweeted, "Update, the individual who was detained has been officially charged in connection with the abduction of Eliza Fletcher. At this point in the investigation, Cleotha Henderson, 38, has been charged with especially aggravated kidnapping and tampering with evidence." As a side note, just like relevant but also not relevant. Cleotha's brother Mario was also charged, not with anything directly related to Eliza, but just stuff that was discovered during the investigation. So an article said a second individual currently not believed to be connected to Fletcher's abduction was also arrested during this investigation. Mario Abston, 36, was charged with possession of a controlled substance with intent to manufacture and sell fentanyl, possession of a controlled substance with intent to manufacture and sell heroin, and convicted felon in possession of a firearm during the commission of a dangerous felony. So, seems like two not great brothers.
Yeah.
There were some rumors on this day that clothing belonging to Eliza had been found in a McDonald's dumpster. That hasn't been confirmed or denied yet.
I feel like it's probably not true based on what they've now said they found when they found her body. But
yeah,
like,
they were looking around there for some reason.
And
though.
I feel like they did put up crime scene tape, and a McDonald's employee said that it was the clothing matched what Eliza had been wearing. So it doesn't really matter anyway, essentially now. But it was just kind of another piece to the puzzle at the time.
Yeah, just everyone was like losing their minds.
Yeah.
So ABC 24 journalist Ian Ripple tweeted photos from that scene. He said, now there is a large police presence at the shopping center a few miles from the apartment complex where a vehicle matching the description was towed. Can't confirm relation to Eliza Fletcher investigation. Some of these officers were also searching Overton Park last night. We quickly learned that Cleotha had a serious criminal history. He had been involved in another abduction in 2000. This is a 2001 article about the case from Memphis Flyer. It says 16 months after he was kidnapped at gunpoint and thrown into the trunk of his car, attorney Kemper Durand watched with some regret last week as two juveniles involved in the case were given prison sentences. Duran was walking to his car around 2 a.m. on May 25, 2000, after attending a party on Beale Street when a lone gunman walked up behind him, took his wallet, and forced him into the trunk. The abductor, Cleotha Abston, drove around and picked up friends then. After about 2 hours, escorted Durand into a MAPCO station to withdraw money from an ATM. And luckily for him, a uniformed Memphis Housing Authority officer entered, and Durand yelled that he'd been kidnapped and the kidnappers ran away. So on Monday, Cleotha pled guilty just before he was scheduled to go to trial and was sentenced to 20 years in prison without parole. He had either turned down an offer of 15 years on the same charge, but according to Durand, told the court he did not want to sign his name, giving himself the time. Cleotha has a long juvenile record of theft and aggravated assault. So definitely a big red flag that he has abducted a random person before. Interesting it was a male, and interesting that he just kept him in the trunk of his car for 2 hours and drove around with friends. Very weird. Like, I wonder what the psychology behind that is.
Yeah, and we'll get into it at the end too, but it's even more interesting because the Kemper Durand has a very loose connection to Eliza as well. So, yeah, interesting.
So even before then, Cleotha had faced numerous charges as a juvenile, including an accusation of rape, according to court documents obtained by the Memphis Commercial Appeal. He had a lengthy history in the juvenile court system prior to his conviction for kidnapping, the earliest of which dated back to 1995, when he was no older than 12 years old. He also appeared in juvenile court records in 1996, 1997, 1998, and 1999 for charges including theft, aggravated assault with a weapon, and rape. So it seems like he is a bad guy.
And all of that when he was a juvenile as well. So, yeah, there was a lot going on when he was growing up, it seems.
Mm-hmm. On Sunday, September 4th, the affidavit in the case was released. We have a blog on Eliza, and the whole thing is on there if you want to read the whole thing, but these are just some highlights from it. Police said a man was riding his bike down Central Avenue at 6:45 a.m. when he found Fletcher's cell phone and a pair of Champion brand sandals. The items were later turned over to Memphis police for analysis. Police said surveillance footage showed a man violently and quickly approach Fletcher before forcing her into the passenger side of a GMC Terrain with passenger side taillight damage. According to police records, the vehicle sat in the parking lot for 4 minutes before driving away. Records also state that the GMC Terrain in question was seen 24 minutes before the abduction and surveillance footage. The TBI performed DNA tests on the slides, and they found that they belonged to Cleotha Abston after his information matched that in CODIS, which is the Combined DNA Index System database. So those were the sandals that we were talking about, how that other biker or runner found them.
I had seen some rumors too that people were saying Eliza had been running in those slides, which I don't think was true at all. No, it was these were Cleotha's slides.
Yeah, like at first, like before everything came out, you would assume they were maybe her shoes, but then you're like, why would she be running in those? But it's actually his shoes that he must have lost during the struggle and didn't go back for, which is good because turned up
Extra
his
piece of
DNA and CODIS. Yeah. Investigators managed to recover the surveillance footage showing Cleotha wearing the same slides like a few days before the abduction. In addition, investigators were able to find his cell phone number and were able to determine his phone was in the vicinity of the abduction approximately the same time it happened. When authorities arrived at Cleotha's last known address, they found the GMC Terrain in question with passenger side taillight damage backed into a parking space. When he saw authorities, he was standing in a doorway and immediately tried to run, but he was eventually captured by the U.S. Marshals. Investigators also interviewed a woman who said after the abduction, Cleotha was behaving in an odd manner. The witness advised investigators he was in a strange mood and vigorously cleaning the interior of his car with carpet cleaner, as well as washing his clothes in the house's sink. After his arrest, he refused to provide Eliza's location. So it seems like they really nailed it on him. Like his phone was in the vicinity, his shoes were there, it matched his DNA, that his car was at his house. So they really got him. So according to police records, quote, as the abduction was violent with, as captured on video, the suspect waiting for, then rushing towards the victim, then forcing the victim into the vehicle where she was confined and removed and continues to be missing. It's believed and supported by the facts and physical evidence that she suffered serious injury. Further, it is probable and apparent from witness statements that these injuries left evidence, e.g. blood in the vehicle that the defendant cleaned. So police conducted many searches for Eliza. They towed away a dumpster that was near Mario's house.
Yeah, so all this happened at Mario's house. I don't even know where Cleotha lived, essentially, but he took the car back to Mario's complex to clean it. So maybe he was living with him, and I don't know, something like that. Yeah,
he was probably throwing away, like if he was scrubbing the car with like rags and stuff, probably threw them out so it could still have like evidence on them.
Yeah.
Cleotha's bail was set at $500,000 on Sunday, which would mean that he'd have to post $50,000 to be released from jail. So there's pictures of the dumpster being towed away and all that. That'll be on the blog. So on Monday, September 5th, things started to really ramp up at this point. Police started setting up crime scene tape. Police said at 5:07 p.m., officers in the 1600 block of Victor located a deceased party. The identity of this person and the cause of death is unconfirmed at this time. The investigation is ongoing. Once additional information is available, we'll provide an update. So the body was not confirmed at that time to be Eliza, but all signs pointed to it being her. But the Memphis PD said they would not make any further comments about the identification of the body on that night.
Police discovered the body of Eliza Fletcher Monday in a grassy lot behind a vacant duplex, roughly 7 miles from where the kindergarten teacher and mother of 2 was last seen. According to an affidavit, tire tracks and an odor of decay led officers to the gruesome discovery. Also recovered a trash bag containing purple shorts, like the ones Fletcher was last seen wearing.
While the outcome of this investigation is not what we hoped for, we are nonetheless pleased to remove this dangerous predator off the streets of Memphis.
You're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping.
So early on Tuesday, September 6th, the Memphis PD made the announcement that confirmed that Eliza had been found. Cleotha was additionally charged with first-degree murder and first-degree murder in the perpetration of kidnapping. The police also said at this time that it's too early in the investigation to confirm Eliza's cause of death. And as we mentioned earlier, it still hasn't been confirmed a few days after she's been found. I guess it will depend on the condition of her body as to how long that might take. The school where Eliza taught released this statement. It said, "We are heartbroken at the loss of our beloved teacher, colleague, and friend, Eliza Fletcher. Our hearts are with the Fletcher, Orgill, and Welford families." So they released a nice photo of her smiling. Very sad for all the students.
Yeah, that must be so traumatic, and they're young kids.
I can't even imagine trying to explain this to young kids, little kindergartners, about what's happened to the teacher.
Very sad.
Eliza's family also released a statement. They said, "We are heartbroken and devastated by this senseless loss. Eliza was such a joy to so many. Her family, friends, colleagues, students, parents, members of her Second Presbyterian Church congregation, and everyone who knew her. Now it's time to remember and celebrate how special she was and to support those who cared so much for her." So on that same day, we also learned some more information about how Eliza was discovered after another affidavit was released. This info about the affidavit is from WREG. It says several law enforcement agencies were conducting a search from East Person Avenue to Victor Street based on data uncovered by the FBI. One of the officers noticed tire tracks in the grass near an abandoned home. Records indicate officers also smelled the odor of decay. They found a body of a woman, later identified as Eliza, next to a set of steps near the driveway on the side of the house. They also found her purple running shorts in a discarded trash bag around 100 feet north of the scene. Surveillance videos also revealed that the suspect's vehicle was in the area on Friday at around 5:48 a.m. In the video, you can see Cleotha get out of the SUV and go to his trunk. It's unclear what he's doing, but shortly after, he goes inside the apartment with what appears to be something in his hand. He came out minutes later and immediately walks to the passenger side of the SUV where he spends more than an hour. Witnesses said he was cleaning out the vehicle. So if she was abducted at 4:20 and he is, in the area at 5:48, it was an hour, it seems like, and it was over basically.
Yeah.
So the mayor of Memphis, Mayor Jim Strickland, released this statement on September 6th. He said, "There is evil in this world. My heart breaks for Eliza and her family, all victims of evil." So we're at kind of yesterday now, Wednesday, September 7. A judge revoked Cleotha's bond. Cleotha also told the judge on this day that he wanted to be known from, here on in as Cleotha Henderson. So if you're wondering why there's two separate names in reporting, that's why his name was changed on Wednesday to Cleotha Henderson.
But we don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Name. Because his brother has the same last name. Like, I get brothers can have different last names, but
I feel like I've spent way too long thinking about this because I'm like, is Henderson his legal name? If not, why are they calling him by it?
I was too, because I was like, well, his brother has the same last name, so.
And every article I've read, it's only been a day, but every article I've read about it has said that he said he prefers to be known as Cleotha Henderson. So I don't know. Anyway, Cleotha also appeared in court today, which is Thursday, September 8. His attorney is a woman named Jennifer Case. She asked the judge, Louis Montesi, to review her involvement in the case amid a conflict of interest concern. So she is a public defender who's been appointed to the case. She said that she'd actually represented Cleotha in a criminal matter in the early 2000s, but the judge said that didn't really matter and Jennifer could proceed as Cleotha's attorney.
She's probably like, damn it.
She also requested a gag order in the case, and she said this because the Memphis police chief, C.J. Davis, had called Cleotha publicly a dangerous predator. However, prosecutors argue that the public should be continued to be informed about this case. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of kind of court proceedings ongoing. Put on some clips. I'm not entirely sure what the kind of map of his court proceedings will look like, when he will go to trial, or what will happen ongoing. We'll have to just keep you updated as those things happen, essentially, because it's such a new case.
I feel like he probably won't, but I feel like he should definitely take a plea deal if offered one, because there's so much evidence against him. He's caught on surveillance everywhere. His phone was there, like his car was there, doing sketchy shit all over.
And also, because he got out of jail, I know early on his previous charges, I just feel like they will absolutely not be lenient. You wouldn't think. Yeah. I guess who even knows anymore. Okay, so he is due again in court on September 19, so around 11 days, and he will not be able to bond out before that or at this time. So we'll have to keep you updated as things happen with that. On Thursday, Eliza's family also released her obituary. It's quite long, but I feel like it's important to read it. So I'll just go through it and I'll put it up on the blog if you want to have a look at all the condolences and things like that people are leaving as well. It says, Eliza Welford Fletcher, 34, went home to her saviour on September 2, 2022. She was born November 9, 1987 in Memphis to adoring parents Adele and James Beasley. Following graduation from the Hutchinson School in 2006, Liza played soccer for the University of Memphis, and she later completed her undergraduate education at Baylor University. She received a master's degree in teaching from Belmont University. She devoted her work and boundless childlike energy to her students at Promise Academy and later her junior kindergarten students at St. Mary's Episcopal School. As with everything Liza took on, she nurtured and cared for her students with her whole heart. A strong believer in the importance of personal growth, she was not afraid to be vulnerable. To the contrary, she embraced it. A born athlete, Liza's passion for sports extended from childhood teams to collegiate competition to excellence in marathons in adulthood. She found great joy in her morning runs with friends. She channeled her competitive nature into enthusiastic participation in all that she undertook. She truly walked and modeled the Christian life and trusted in her unwavering faith. Liza was a light to all who knew her. Her contagious smile and laughter could brighten any room. Liza was pure of heart and innocent in ways that made her see the very best in everyone she met. To know her was to love her and to be loved by her. Her impact is extraordinary as it is witnessed in prayer groups, vigils held at the homes of friends and family, church and school gatherings, and memorial runs and walks held in her honour. The outpouring of love and grief would have surprised Liza, who never thought or acted as if she was anything special, though she certainly was. Above all else, Liza's most cherished role was that of wife and mother. After meeting at the Second Presbyterian Church, she married her beloved husband Richard on March 8, 2014, and they later welcomed their two rambunctious, joyful boys, Richard James and Harry. She loved her family fiercely and unconditionally. Together as a family, they enjoyed outdoor adventures, including boating, water sports, hiking, running, and biking. She was deeply admired by her friends and family for her passionate dedication to motherhood. So then it just goes into her family and kind of the funeral details, which I believe will be held on Saturday. So
yeah, I just actually got a tweet alert that said funeral service are set for Saturday, September 10th, 2022 at 10 a.m. at Second Presbyterian Church at 4055 Poplar Avenue.
And it looks like her family have set up a memorial fund. It says the family requests that memorials be made to the Eliza Welford Fletcher Memorial Fund at St. Mary's Episcopal School, Christ Methodist Day School, and Second Presbyterian Church. And they also quote Psalm 51:12, and it says, "Restore to me the joy of your salvation and uphold in me a willing spirit." So they're very gracious in their kind of memories of Liza, and even in terms of acknowledging the public and the things that the public have done in Eliza's memory in her obituary, which is a nice, they didn't have to do that, but it was nice of them to kind of acknowledge what people have been doing to honour her.
Yeah.
So that is kind of it up to date for Eliza's case. Obviously things are going to keep happening, so we may have to do another follow-up episode but we'll keep you updated as little pieces come out on our blog and on our Instagram.
And if anything small but relevant happens, we'll put in a clip here to update.
New tonight at 10, the man accused of kidnapping and killing Eliza Fletcher is facing 3 new criminal charges tonight. The charges are from another case in 2021. In this case, he's facing charges for aggravated rape, kidnapping, and unlawful possession of a gun. Memphis police confirm a sexual assault report was taken on September 21 of 2021. The sexual assault kit was submitted to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations 2 days later on September 23rd of last year, but that kit was not tested until he was connected to Eliza Fletcher's disappearance. In a statement from the TBI says that they do accept rush DNA cases when requested by a local investigative agency, like what happened in the Eliza Fletcher case, but they also describe a staffing shortage. Only 4 scientists are assigned to that unit, which has created a long turnaround time and an extreme backlog of untested rape kits. Now, the TBI says that they're looking to add to their staff and are committed to improving the process for stakeholders, including victims and survivors.
I think one of the biggest questions that we've had from our followers, and I think a lot of people generally have the question about how did Eliza die? What was her cause of death? Do do you have any theories, or what do you think happened? It seems like it was very quick. If he sat there with her in the car for 4 minutes.
I feel like he probably must have strangled her or something equivalent, unless he did have a weapon on him.
I haven't heard anything about a weapon, which also makes me think maybe it was strangulation or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know if it happened, if he like accidentally kind of strangled her to death in the car right there, because then in an hour, right? An hour-ish, it seemed like he was already dumped the body.
Yeah, and I feel like she was quite petite. I don't know his stats, but he, I think, would obviously have been bigger than her. So maybe he just actually really physically overpowered her. She was not expecting it. He jumped out, grabbed her, pushed her into the car, and they had a struggle for... I still can't quite picture how it happened. If he shoved her into the passenger seat, I guess the child lock could have been on. You know, like it just seems he would still have to go around and hop in the driver's seat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I feel like he must have strangled her unconscious at least or something, or
to put her in the car.
Yeah, unless he had a weapon and like threatened her with the weapon, but we don't know that yet.
I asked our followers on Instagram if they had any kind of thoughts or questions about the case, and S. Garcia said, "What do you think he did to her in the 4 minutes before driving off?" So I feel like that was likely that he somehow rendered her immobile.
Yeah, God, so she's not going to run out of the car or make a scene.
Yeah. And the other thing which I found more disheartening, which I don't even know if it can get more disheartening in a case like this, is that her shorts were found off her body. So I hope that she wasn't sexually abused, but why else would her shorts have not been on her, essentially?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times it's kind of the reason for abducting, like a man abducting a female or something like that. So I thought it was interesting that at first, the other time he abducted a male, like maybe for him it's more just like the power struggle and like how he just kept him in the in the trunk while he like drove around with friends. Like maybe he just like gets off on like being like, I have this guy in the trunk who's like, that guy was I don't remember what his job was, but he had like a pretty like powerful
he was an
job
attorney. He was an
right?
attorney. Yeah.
So I feel like that he probably like got off on that being like, I have an attorney in my trunk. I mean, because he's probably hasn't had the best times with attorneys with all of his juvenile crimes.
And I guess too, this kind of all ties in. We asked the question, I think it might have been when Eliza was still missing, about if we thought this was a targeted abduction or a random abduction. And I feel like, if I remember rightly, I think 65% of people said they believed it was targeted, maybe because of her money. But I feel like this was a random thing. It could have been targeted in that he knew her routine.
Right.
But I don't think that he targeted her to make a ransom demand and it didn't happen. I feel like he targeted her for the purpose of killing her and whatever else he did. I don't think that the money was a motive to target her.
Yeah, I feel like it was like a random target, if that makes sense. Like maybe he'd seen her jogging before.
Yeah.
And
like, I also feel like
out there.
when they said he drove around the area for half an hour or whatever it was and he pulled up, he knew what he was going to do. Like, he waited there for her to get to the car and then he jumped down and grabbed her. So it was targeted in that sense, that he spent some time thinking about it and some time planning it. But
yeah, and I know this is going to be another one where I think I talked about it in the last episode or the one before that, where I'm sure, I talked about it with the Kylie one. I'm sure there's going to be so many conspiracies still on like TikTok, online, people who just like want the clout and views, because there's still people out there being like trying to say, with no idea really, saying like, oh well, maybe the husband did drugs and like the brother was a drug dealer and then they worked on this like together and they put out this hit on her. Like there's gonna be all these crazy stories, but I personally don't see any of that being true.
One of the kind of bigger conspiracies, and we touched on it briefly before, is that the man that Cleotha abducted in 2000 was an attorney, and that man worked for a firm with Eliza's uncle. I don't know if it's the uncle who made the video plea, but I believe it possibly is. So everyone's like, wow, they are connected. How could he have abducted two people who knew the same person?
I feel like that's giving Cleotha way too much credit.
Yeah, and I also feel like exactly, and it's such a loose connection as well. Like obviously Eliza's family, are wealthy. They have money. He abducted an attorney previously. Like I feel like it's not unreasonable to believe that they would be somehow socially connected or, you know, through employment either way. I just feel like they're in the same circle. That's the only real connection. And I feel like it is probably just a coincidence. I agree. I feel like there is no way Cleotha studied who Eliza was, found someone who had a random connection to the guy he abducted in 2000. And that man has since passed away of natural causes anyway. So that man isn't alive any longer. I just feel like it's such a reach to think that she was targeted for that reason.
No, I agree. And I've seen people from the area message us and say, like, yeah, her family is like super rich, but like that doesn't mean she was necessarily super rich. Like, sure, she maybe knew like she'd have a inheritance or something, and like, yes, she drove an expensive car, but she was still like working as a teacher, and they're still working. It's not like she was just living this like lavish, luxurious lifestyle.
No. And even when they like all the headlines are like billionaire heiress, she isn't the only heiress. There's a lot of grandchildren in that family. Like, this wasn't even her father's money. Like, essentially, probably, do you know what I mean? Like, I know it passes down, but her grandfather was the one who earned the money. There was a whole bunch of family members this had to be split against. Yeah. Like,
like I'm sure she has money, but it's not like she's like just got tons
oil
of money
heiress
and,
or something.
yeah, and just flaunting her wealth, like making herself an obvious target. Like, she was a pre-K teacher.
So we actually I've only posted it up a few minutes before we started recording, and we've actually had a lot of comments. So I'll post them up on the Instagram too. Things like, do we know why he took her? Rape, robbery, or hired? I really feel like this was just a random evil abduction for maybe purposes of rape, maybe purposes just of murder. We won't know until they release her cause of death. One other comment that comes up a lot too is stop victim blaming. Sick of people saying she shouldn't have run in the dark. Why was she out running at 4:30 a.m.? How stupid. What a dangerous thing to do. Whereas a lot of people are sick of that narrative. And why shouldn't women be able to go for a run in the morning if they want? Which comes up a lot. And absolutely, I agree with that.
It's sad that women have to be scared to do so many things alone, and that we have to feel like we have to protect ourselves all the time. It's like why I don't like doing anything by myself, really, because I hear all these stories. But there shouldn't be a reason why she can't go jogging at 4 a.m. Like, it's 4 a.m. It should be the same as 4 p.m.
Yeah. I've seen so many comments too about change the narrative. The narrative shouldn't be why was she jogging at 4:30 a.m. This should be stop murdering women.
Why is this guy a psychopath?
Yeah. Why stop murdering women? Stop abducting women. So
yeah, like what makes this dude feel so entitled to ruin this Eliza's life, to literally take her life, murder her, ruin her family's lives? Like, what makes this guy feel like he should be doing that? Or like, is that entitled to take someone else's life? Why?
Yeah, and there's just so many comments along those lines. Like, the amount of people talking about her actions being to blame, it's infuriating, which I agree. And I think a lot of people in this case feel like they can relate to Eliza. Like, she was a mother, she liked true crime, she was just trying to go for a run to fit everything in her day. And we've had so many people who say, that's the time I run at, that's the only time I can run at. You know, or that's the time I go to the gym or whatever. So I feel like a lot of people really relate to her, and she was just minding her own business, out for a run, and in the end some creep took advantage of her and took her life away from her and her children. So I feel like that might be why so many people, women especially, are invested in this case.
Yeah, that's true. It's very, like, she could have been anyone, because it just seems like it was random.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, sometimes you see other crimes and you're like, that there's an explanation for it and almost a reasoning, whereas there's nothing in this case. There's no reason or need for this to happen.
Yeah, it's always just going to come down to this guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah. We did also have quite a lot of questions about their personal life. One of them, like, one said, we need clarity on the husband nanny rumors. And then there was also a rumor that her husband had an addiction issue. We can't really provide clarity on that. It may have been true. I feel like maybe, like, there is a possibility that the husband had an affair. We have no idea, obviously. But I feel like in this case it has nothing to do with Eliza's murder. So it essentially
no
doesn't
sense
really
in, like, speculating about it. It's like, it's so easy for just one person to say that factually, or like what they think, and then another person to just like say like, oh well, I heard someone said this and I heard this, and then it just turns into like, this is a fact, but it was never a fact.
I feel like the husband nanny thing kind of came up because it was a theory early on, especially after the shears were taken from the house. I don't think people really suspected the husband at all until they saw these photos of the house. Like, why are they towing her car when she was abducted from somewhere else? Why are they taking these garden shears? And everyone, that's when the kind of speculation about Richie started. And that one of the theories was that he was having an affair with this nanny and that he had hired someone or set up Eliza's abduction to get rid of her. So I guess he could be with the nanny. It doesn't seem to me like that. I would be very, very shocked if that comes out to be the outcome. I really feel like Cleotha did this of his own accord.
Yeah, like it seems weird that they did such a hardcore search on the house so quickly and like took her car and stuff. Because even to me, like looking at the time, I'm like, that's weird. I wonder if they know something. But I guess at the time, it's like they know nothing essentially, so they have to. Obviously, a lot of times the husband or spouse is one of the first.
I was going to say, I feel like this goes against our narrative of it's always the husband, because if they didn't conduct those searches, we'd be like, wow, what's happening? Why aren't they? Like, they've really dropped the ball.
So I guess they have to cancel. Like, what's the? I don't know. They have to narrow him.
Yeah,
rule him down. Rule him out. Yeah, I don't know why I could not think of that. They had to rule him out as a suspect and just maybe like taking the car, like. Kind of taking stuff from the house, see who she was communicating with, because a lot of like a random abduction like this is more rare than it being someone like she knew.
Yeah, I heard a stat the other day, and I think we've spoken about it before too. It's like 65% of women who are murdered by their partner or their kind of intimate partner. So obviously they should have looked there first, and they did. And once they did that, though, that's when everything went a bit crazy. We did get a message, I think it might have been on Instagram, from someone about the garden shears, and they said basically that they believed that the shears were actually taken by the police into the house to collect evidence. So if they needed to clip something or cut carpet or whatever, something like that.
I feel like they would have better tools.
I know, it seems very weird, but I guess it could be an explanation, and it would also explain, because the police officers literally, when he leaves the house, he's holding the shears kind of with the shears
True,
pointing
it's not
down.
bagged or anything.
No, and in his other hand, he has a brown paper bag that looks like it's sealed. So it could have just been a police tool. I don't know. But I feel like the shears were the thing that set everyone off.
Yeah, it was super weird, but it's true, because like if they're looking for blood or anything like that, they'll like cut out a piece of the carpet or something. Like,
yeah, I feel like surely they would have something better than use to use.
They need
shears,
to put like a police decal on that shit to stop this.
So I think that's kind of the general theme of the questions that we've got. People wanting to know the motive, wanting to know how she passed away, and if it was targeted or not seems to be the kind of main things.
Yeah.
So one thing that has come out of Eliza's case, I guess it's put a spotlight on Memphis and how apparently dangerous Memphis is. There was actually a shooting incident yesterday, which we debated talking about, but there's not quite enough information. But basically a guy went live on Facebook, went on a shooting rampage. I believe 4 people are dead and 3 others were injured. So like there's a lot going on in Memphis at the moment. I had a look. The Memphis violent crime rate is 85.7, where the US average is 22.7. Memphis property crime is 81.1. The US average is 35.4. And in 2021, Memphis was ranked as the most dangerous city in the USA, which is a sad stat. Like everyone is like, wow, where she was found is such a dangerous area. Where the car was, it's. I've just seen so many comments along those lines in terms of Eliza's case. So it just seems like it's quite out of control there. I did see an article from this year. It says that there's been a 6.1% drop in violent crime in Memphis this year, but crime overall rose by 8.2%. So it seems like it's going to be a hard battle for them to win to get it under control there.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I guess that's really it for that. So we did have a little bit more of information about Alanya Lenore to talk about too. So it seems like Tori went on Instagram and kind of posted an account of what happened that night. So Tori is the friend, just as like a brief recap. As a brief recap, Alanya and her friend Tori went and met up with 2 guys at an apartment complex. Tori ended up leaving around midnight. Alanya, I guess, stayed. But basically, Alanya was never seen leaving the apartment, and then she was missing. So a lot of people were questioning the friend, like, what happened? So this is what she wrote. It's kind of long, but I feel like it answers a lot of questions we had. So I'm just going to
Especially because there was so little information.
Yeah.
Like, I think we even said in the episode, we have no idea what actually transpired that night. So
yeah. So this gives a lot of info that I think people will want to hear. Okay. So it's not like super well written, so just bear with me. Okay, so she wrote, I didn't think I would have to address the internet, but let's discuss July 30th. Contrary to the internet's belief, I have not been hiding, nor am I on the run. I have absolutely nothing to hide or run from. This entire case was started and has all of the information it does because of me. Let's first begin with the fact that these men were indeed not random men to Alanya. She had been there alone for months, and they had always Ubered her home, she told me. And Alanya had asked me to take her there. She wanted to hang out with them. That was my first time meeting these men. And many ask why I was comfortable, quote, leaving her there. Well, I didn't leave her. Alanya was offered a ride home from me about 3 times, and she declined. She said she was going to leave at 3 to go home and watch King. I think that's her brother. And that Steven or Deontay was going to get her an Uber. Steven and Deontay are the men that they were hanging out with at the apartment. And I trusted that, considering they've already gotten her home that way, and she knew the men and was going there before by herself. I didn't once think that something negative was going to come out of that night. Had I felt like something was going to happen if I left her by herself, then I would have drug her out by her hair, whether she wanted to leave or not. And if these were random men to her, I would not have left her alone. And many ask what prompted me to leave. Well, to be utterly blunt, I was sitting alone in the living room, no TV or music, and all I heard was sex sounds. And I don't know about y'all, but me personally, I don't want to hear that. So when I had realized that the party was over, I was ready to go. When one of my friends said they were able to get me, I had sent Alanya a text because she was in the room with Deontay and had been asking if she wanted to leave with me. When they were done, they had come out, and we then began planning how they were going to get her home since she wasn't ready to leave with me. The next day, I came back to get my car. Deontay wasn't even home. But that night, I had been texting and calling Alanya to see if she had made it home, and I didn't get a response. At the time, I didn't think much of it because there'd been numerous times we'd gone out, and I would tell her to let me know when she gets home, and she doesn't. She gets home, goes to sleep, and will always hit me up the next day to tell me she's okay. But that text never came. I kept calling and calling, and her phone ended up being turned off. I was hoping she was just drunk and asleep at home and her phone died while she was asleep, but I kept calling and sent some texts, and they just stopped going through. Her phone never turned back on. My text to her now turned green. I'd asked each of the men what time she left, and each gave me different stories and couldn't give me a set time that she left. They were also saying things like maybe she just needed some time to herself, which is absolute utter bullshit, because in no world would Alanya just dip off on everyone. I had started contacting Alanya's close friends to see if anybody had heard from her, and they didn't. I reached out to Jeanette, which is her mother, to see if Alanya had come home, and she said, quote, wasn't home, so I can't say for sure, but when I came back, she wasn't home. We then reached out to her boyfriend to see if he'd heard from her, and he hadn't heard from her since lunch the day before. At this moment, we knew something was wrong. Alanya's close friends and I began calling all the hospitals and jails to see if she happened to be in one of those. And sadly, she wasn't. The next day, be quiet. It hit 24 hours. I went to ABD to file a missing person case, but I was sent away because I was told a family member had to do it. So we waited for Jeanette to do that. When the case was first started, I went to the apartment with Alanya's uncle and stood there for hours waiting on Deontay to come out, and he never did. I spent 2 days waiting at this complex for him to come out before I was told to leave by APD. And if I came back to the complex, was going to press charges on me, even though they knew exactly why I was there. However, in their defense, I was being a little crazy. I tried kicking down his door and threw numerous objects at his bedroom window, hoping I'd hit it. While we were there, I called APD to come out and do a wellness check to see if she was still in the apartment. We waited there for 2.5 hours for them to do a wellness check. When they arrived, all they did was knock on the door. Said they had no probable cause to enter. Afterwards, her uncle and I had walked the complex, sharing Alanya's story in hopes someone had seen her. While doing that, we met an incredibly sweet older lady who took it upon herself to go and bang on Deontay's door until he opened it. On August 3rd, he finally opened his door to the lady and allowed her to enter. She then FaceTimed me and walked me through the apartment, and Alanya was not in there. However, Deontay's apartment looked as if he was in the process of cleaning it out. All of the clothes from his closet were removed, food gone from the pantry, and his table and countertops were completely wiped down. And the lady who sat there with him for a while, sat there talking with him for a while, asking questions about Alanya, and in the span of that 15-minute recording, he changed his story about 5 different times. He first started saying he thought she left with me, then it switched to she left at 4, then it switched to she left in the morning, then he said he thought one of her pimps picked her up, and Alanya doesn't even have a pimp, and then he said she ordered herself an Uber. And that isn't even possible for Alanya because she doesn't have an ID or a debit card, so she can't even create an Uber account, let alone order one for herself. She relies on her friends and mom to order her Ubers. I'd asked him why they didn't order her an Uber like they were supposed to, and they tried to tell me she said she didn't need one. Well, Lonnie has no car, and yet again, when I was leaving, we were all in agreement that she was getting an Uber, so I'm not sure how we went from that plan to her suddenly not needing an Uber. When I questioned Steven, he didn't have much to say. He tells me he left at 4 a.m. and came back at 8 a.m. and she apparently wasn't there. Now, what was he doing for those 4 hours? I have no idea. I asked multiple times and he dodged the question each time. I wish I had more information on this case, but the sad truth is that I don't. Even though the internet has turned this into an internet drama, I am utterly thankful I went with her that night, because if I wasn't, we would have no trace of Alanya. So I'm grateful for the information we do have and hopeful we all get answers soon. And then with that post, I won't read them out because it's basically just recapping what she said, but we'll put them on the blog or something. But she posted her texts with Alanya's mom, just showing that she did put in the effort of being like, hey, like, have you seen her? And text with the 2 guys of her asking them, like, where is she? And them kind of just being like, oh, I thought you came and picked her up, or I thought this person came and picked her up. And her being like, we're going to check the cameras, and then being like, go ahead, I have nothing to hide. So we'll add those to the blog.
There is an interesting, I'll just read it out quickly. I think it must be between Tori and Stephen. And he says, go ahead, I've got nothing to hide. And she said, you definitely do. That's why you've all got different stories. Like, where did you go at 4 a.m. for 4 hours? And he wrote, you're really starting to try me at this point. I've been cordial. I really hope you find your friend. And if there's anything physically I can do, let me know. And then she goes on to say, I'm sorry, she's never done this. It's incredibly out of character. And he writes, I'm not mad, just irritated. And she said, fuck your irritation. My friend is fucking missing. And then like it goes on. So she's posted everything. She's been very open and upfront with what her communication with these people has been.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to like make sure to read it, because I know when we first recorded the episode, there wasn't much info from her, so it kind of made her seem a little suspicious, or like that she wasn't telling the full story, but it does seem like she actually is really trying, and she like put out probably the most information we've seen about what happened that night.
Yeah, it doesn't change my mind as to what happened. Like I feel like it supports what I believe happened. That something happened.
Yeah, definitely.
With at least Deontay, probably the 2 men, and they've either moved her or done something with Alanya. So I definitely feel like that supports that theory that we mentioned in the other episode.
Yeah, like something happened and they disposed of her body somehow.
Or it could be trafficking again, but I feel like it's unlikely. It seems like there was foul play.
Yeah, and especially if she'd been going there for like months, and it seems like she was sleeping with one of them. I don't know.
I am glad. We have a follower called Atlanta Anna, and she was the one who sent us those. She's been very helpful in the case as well. She knows a lot. So
big thank you.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so very curious about that one. All right, well, I guess that is everything for this episode. Feels like it was a long one.
Yeah, been a long morning.
Yeah, it probably feels longer because we had to do 2 calls before this too, so it might feel longer than it actually is. All right, so everything will be on the blog as it always is. Those texts we'll put in Alanya's blog. We'll have the one on Eliza with all the screenshots and everything. So check those out, truecrimesocietyblog.com. Follow us on Instagram at True Crime Society. We post tons of updates there about different stories throughout the day. Pete, be quiet. You're being very, very rowdy today. Shush. Shush. She's so bratty. Do you hear her?
Yeah, I can hear her.
She's being bossy. She's like, it's been too long.
Hurry up.
You could follow our personal accounts. Mine is StephSum_. Olivia's TCS Olivia, and they're in the True Crime Society bio if you don't have a pen to write those down. Leave us a nice review on Apple. It would be greatly appreciated. You could leave us a rating on Spotify, and always please share the podcast with people you know. Post on your Instagram story. It's a really, really big help when you guys do that. We share it, so it's great. I don't know. I'm just done today. And if any of our sponsors are interesting to you, or if you want a code or anything, just shoot us a message. But check them out as well. And I think that's it. I don't know. My mind is ready to go to this wedding and eat food. That's all I can
I do
think
have
about.
one little thing to add. As you were talking, I was just on our Instagram. We got a message, and I actually think it's quite important. It says, put a message in your podcast advocating for everyone to keep an eye out for each other. Do you see a distracted mum leaving a grocery store? Make sure she gets to her car safely. A woman alone getting gas? Wait until she drives away. It just takes a moment and you never know anymore. So I do.
That's really nice.
Yeah, like I've seen, a few other comments about like women who've seen other women out running, and might be a man behind them, so they go and kind of stand and watch and things like that. So it only takes a few seconds to watch out for someone and make sure that they get to where they're going safely.
Yeah. All of us women, we gotta all protect each other, and nice men too. But we all gotta stick together. Maybe I'll try to remind myself next time we record to say that at the start, just in case people have turned it off at this point. All right, but yeah, so look out for each other. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next time. Peace out.
See ya.